Hello again, it's Mr. Dixon, your too cool for school counselor, back with another episode of Mr. Dixon's Doodles. Today, we're going to talk about anxiety. First, we'll start by describing what anxiety is, then we'll talk about how to recognize the anxiety. Lastly, we'll talk about some strategies that you can use to help you deal with anxiety in a healthy way. The term anxiety describes the way someone might feel if they're nervous, worried, or fearful about something that's going to happen. Someone who's experiencing anxiety can feel that way for several reasons. Things like upcoming school tests, moving to a new school, and other big changes are all examples of things that might make someone experience anxiety and feel anxious. With so much change going on in the world, many people often feel this way. The reason these things might make us feel anxious is because they're new, and we usually don't feel that we have control over the situations. Think of it this way, the first time you came to a new school or joined a new class, you might have been anxious and felt worried about what was going to happen. As school went on and you made new friends and things became more normal to you, those feelings of worry, fear, and nervousness probably went away. The longer you do anything, the more control you usually feel over the situation and know what to expect. This usually helps with anxiety and feeling anxious. Now that you know what anxiety is, let's talk about some ways we can recognize these feelings in ourselves so we can know when we're feeling anxious. When we're experiencing anxiety, our bodies will usually have some physical symptoms which are clues to help us know that. Now these clues are a bit different for everyone and change depending on the situation, but here are some common ways our body shows us that we might be anxious. You might find yourself getting a stomach ache or pain. An example of this is right before you have to do a test, your stomach might start hurting. The same thing could be said for headaches right before big things. Some people who are feeling anxious might have a hard time sleeping during the night. Maybe they wake up often or can't fall asleep at all. When we are anxious about something, our hearts might also speed up. An example of this would be if you were worried about giving a speech to your class, you might feel your heart beat faster, even if you're just thinking about it. Some of us might sweat more when we get anxious about things that are happening or are going to happen soon. And sometimes our faces may start to feel red and hot, or you may get that feeling of having butterflies in your stomach too. These are just a few examples of some of the symptoms we might experience in our body when we're feeling anxiety. Remember, our mental symptoms of anxiety could be feeling things like worry, nervousness, or fear. It is normal and okay to experience any of these feelings every now and then, but when it happens all the time or you just can't control it, it might be a sign of anxiety. Now we're going to discuss some ways we can try to effectively deal with anxiety. Remember, it's perfectly normal to feel feelings like worry, fear, and nervousness, but if we feel them all the time, there's some things we can do to try to help ourselves. The things we will discuss are, first, figuring out why we might be feeling this way. 2, controlling what we can't control. 3, different strategies like journaling and breathing exercises. The first step in dealing with our anxiety in a healthy way is to understand what events are causing us to feel anxious and why. For example, someone who always feels this way before a test or big assignment might be worried that they will not do well and feel worried and nervous about taking the test. Thinking they won't do well is the thing that's probably making them anxious. If they knew they were going to get an A+, they probably wouldn't be too worried in the first place. We can apply this same process to any time we're feeling anxious. Stop and take a second and really think about what's going on or coming up that has you so worried, stressed, or nervous. You might not always be able to pick it out, but you often can. Once we are able to pick out the things that are causing us to feel worried, nervous, or fearful, we can go into step 2 of controlling the things we can control. As we talked about earlier, we often feel anxious about things that we think are outside of our control. Let's look at how this plays out with the example we used previously where someone was anxious before a big test because they were worried that they wouldn't do well. To help them overcome the worry and anxiety they feel about not doing well on the test, we can focus on things we can control about the situation. These things will often help them do better on the test and worry less. Even though they can't control that they have a test or when it is, they can control things like how much they study before the test, taking good notes in class leading up to the test, and how much they practice before taking the test. As we control things we can in different situations, we have more power in deciding and influencing our results. This helps us to become more confident in our abilities and be less anxious. We all have or will feel anxiety at some point, so it's good to have some techniques we can use that we know help us calm our minds and bodies down and worry less. The strategy you choose is going to depend on what you enjoy and find the most helpful, but here are a few different options that might help. You can journal about your thoughts. You can listen to some of your favorite music or instrumentals. You can exercise or go for walks. You can also try talking to adults or other people about the way you're feeling and why. And lastly, breathing exercises can also be helpful. Try things like taking deep breaths and counting down from 10. As you can see, there are many different strategies we can use to help calm our minds and bodies when we're feeling anxious. Next time you feel this way, try one of them and see if they help you. If you find something that helps you, the good news is you can try it every time you're feeling this way. Throughout this video, you've learned about what anxiety is, how we can recognize anxiety in our bodies and minds, and lastly about some steps you can take to help yourself deal with some of the challenges of anxiety. Remember, most of us at some point will feel anxious. Feeling worried, nervous, or fearful about something is completely normal. These feelings usually arise because we feel like a situation is outside of our control, or when we're experiencing something that is completely new to us. In order to help ourselves overcome anxiety, it's important that we try to identify what's causing us to feel anxious, control the things we can control to get more confidence in the situation, and try one of the strategies we discussed above like journaling or breathing exercises. That's all for our lesson on anxiety. Until next time, remember you are competent and capable, so always be confident. See ya!